Today I'm going to talk about bike maintenance, specifically this Cult BMX bike. See, it says Cult right there? Did you know Robbie Morales hand welds every Cult BMX bike? Every frame and fork. Even this Odyssey fork. He welded the whole thing. That's what he does. So, step number one in making sure that your bike is reliable, your crank. This is an Odyssey Thunderbolt crank. Crank has to be torqued to the right specification, and they did that here. See, they went to the Odyssey website, they downloaded the torque specifications, they got out a torque wrench, and they torqued it just to the right specification. And that way, they know that when they're riding, things are going to be really solid and reliable. Now let's get to the seat. It's very important to make sure that your seat bolt is tightened also to the right torque specification. In this case, it looks like they did just that. And that way the seat is going to stay exactly where you want it to be. You know, if you want it to be here, or here, or here, it's going to stay exactly where it's supposed to stay, so that when you go riding, you know you have somewhere to sit. There's another little Cult logo for you. Now, wheel building is an art, it's a skill, it's both, and it's imperative in wheel building to make sure all the spokes have the right tension on them. Make sure all the spoke nipples are free on the threads so they don't bind up. And it's obvious that a very skilled wheelsmith built these wheels because they're impeccable and they're in excellent condition. And once he built the wheels, he made sure that the tires had appropriate pressure in them. In this case, it says right there, 110 psi. Now, I'm gonna have to complain a little bit because it feels like he put about 115, maybe 118 in there. So you might want to let out 5 or 8 pounds. But it's a good start. Now let's get to the front of the bike. It's always important to make sure your handlebars are adjusted properly. These handlebars, well, they could use a little bit of tweaking. The rule of thumb is that the handlebars and the forks should be basically parallel. Maybe swept back a little bit, so you might want to get out the Allen wrench and adjust them just a little bit. No big deal there. Now the stem should be tightened to the fork steerer tube. Not over torqued, because that way you can either strip your stem bolt holes or you could snap the bolts. Again, go to your manufacturer's website, figure out the torque specifications. Looks like they did just a fine job here. Now, the fork goes in the frame and it's held in place by something called the headset and the stem. You got to make sure your headset bearings are lubricated, unless they're sealed bearings, in which case you might not need to lubricate them. Make sure everything's tight so you don't have any wobble. It looks like right here they did an excellent job, and that way you know that on this bike, when you're riding, you won't have any problems at all with your steering system. If you're bunny hopping up to do a Smith grind, let's say, you're not going to have any issues. So that's what I would consider to be a primer in bicycle maintenance as it relates to the modern BMX bike in the 21st century. I hope you've learned something.